to the Coach V Show, broadcast from Hollywood-Radio Studios and powered by the Island City Media Group, where the beach meets the streets. And tonight, I am so grateful for the opportunity to feature Do Work Nation's Joe Mikitish. And he's going to be here just sharing some valuable life lessons as a military kid that traveled from place to place to owning over 8, 9, 10 businesses, and now is one of the duos that runs Do Work Nation out of the 208 Boise, Idaho. And really his perspective, his success, his significance, and his story coming up next. Shout out Do Work Nation. Thank you, Joe, for coming on the show. And shout out to Island City Media Group, where the beach meets your streets, that is powering the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron. Together we rise. And now a word from our sponsor.
Whenever it's cold outside and you need a little heat, at the game or in a plane, it's comfortable on your feet. When it's time for a nap, it's a pillow for your sleep. Get your comfy blanket now. Get your comfy blanket now.
Welcome to the Coach V Show, your Hollywood radio show for personal development, with expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we work to be our best and live our best life. Offering for your consideration through some of my insights, but definitely through our featured guests, some success frameworks, behavioral models, and life lessons that, should you believe and find value in them, that you subscribe and deploy all over your life, leadership, and business. Here on the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron, together we rise, powered by the Island City Media Group, where the beach meets the streets. And shout out to our Hollywood-Radio station, the Dash Radio family on Hollywood Boulevard, for always broadcasting the show. Tonight, I am so excited to have on the show, all the way from the 208 in Idaho, Joe Mikitish, who started his career working for huge companies where he would help engineer products, services, and solutions, then help the marketing team market and the sales team sell those solutions into the market. This experience had led him to start his own business, Jordan, years ago. For those of you that don't know, Jordan wore 23. So 23 years ago. Since then, he has built 10 businesses in different industries, from concept to 7 figures, with 6 successful exits. He is passionate about teaching other business owners how to grow profitable organizations. He now coaches and empowers business owners, I love that word, owners, to control their own destiny in these areas: marketing, sales, and business growth, to achieve the time and money and freedom that they dreamed of when they started. Joe is joining us from Meridian, Boise, Nampa, shout out 208 area. Joe Mikitish, welcome to the Coach V Show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Man, thank you, brother. So we read some of your business bio. Tell us your genesis point and where it is that you started. Where were you born? Where did you first grow up, Brother Joe?
Yeah, I was born actually in Denver. My dad was military. So I claim Montana as home. That's where I spent most of my non-travel moments when we were traveling around the world with the military. So my grandparents lived in Montana. So every summer I was home fishing, hunting, running around the mountains of Montana. It was great way to grow up, both experiencing international travel with the military and then, having a home base in a great place in the mountains of Montana. So, that gave me the freedom to think. My grandpa, he's a big reader, so he had a huge library of business books. So you can see I keep that tradition going. And, a lot of cold days. It's cold today in Boise. Today, I looked at where I was from in Montana. It was minus 24 today. So lots of days sitting in front of a fire reading books. So that got me fired up about learning, education, and kind of taking what I learned and teaching others. You really can't, the education process hasn't been completed until you take what you've learned, apply it, and then teach it to someone else. So, that's that led me to, going to college and then working for big companies, big tech companies, big oil and gas companies around the world. And I enjoyed my time there, but what I found was no matter how great I was at my job, no matter how many hours I put in, no matter how much I sacrificed my time with my family, it just wasn't respected or appreciated like I thought it would be.
Mm.
And so I started a small business in Houston, Texas. I was living at the time when I started my first business that wasn't a childhood business. Childhood business, we mowed lawns and cut trees and did all kinds of stuff, but started a professional business in Houston servicing small businesses. And I found when I applied those same skills that I applied in my job at a big company to a little business, it made a huge difference. It made a huge impact on people's lives. And so they really appreciated me even showing up and helping them. And so I got a lot of satisfaction out of that. Sold that business and moved to Idaho in 2003. And I went to work for a big company here while I started another startup here in the same kind of industry. It was in the tech space. And then I spun off another business from that. And so that kind of led me to understanding that there were businesses out there who said they could help me grow my business. And those came in the form of coaches, which I've always had a coach, always had multiple coaches. And I've paid for that coaching. I've paid for that mentoring. I've paid for that time. And, I still have coaches. I still have people that mentor me and help me along the path who have achieved more than I have. There's always somebody better, right? There's always somebody who knows more than you do. And so, I always seek those people out to help me to the next level. The way I think about it is my cousin and I, there was these big boulders in Montana, and there's always a gap between them, right? And so as we were running, we would jump from boulder to boulder, and these boulders were like the size of Volkswagen vans.
Right.
And what we found is when we were running, if we held hands, we could fling one guy to the one boulder, and that person could pull you to the next one, and we could make it across the boulder field twice as fast. And so coaching is much like that. Mentoring is much like that, that pulling one person from one rock to the next, one level to the next. And so I decided when I started going through the process of marketing and sales and growing my business and hiring people, that there were a lot of people who would take my money but wouldn't give me what I wanted in return. And so I knew I needed to empower myself with the knowledge in order to run my own business. And so now that's what I do for other business owners. I teach them what I've learned. I've mentored, coached, and trained over 5,000 business owners. And I want to help more of them, because we all started a business with the idea of getting time and money freedom, right? We were like, I work for this big company, or I work for somebody else. I want time and money freedom of my own. I want to own it. I want to create it myself. But oftentimes you don't know what work to do to get there. You are willing to do the work, but you do a lot of the wrong work, and you hire a lot of the wrong people, and you hire a lot of the wrong professionals. And so what I've decided to do over the last 7 years was really take all that I learned running my businesses, all the coaching and mentoring I've gotten, take that to people, other business owners, and help them get that time and money freedom. And I have clients all over the world. I've got got not just in the US, but Canada, South Africa, Australia. I've got one in the UK. He actually called me the other day and he was like, man, you helped me out in March. I was like, honestly, I talked to so many people, I don't remember the conversation, man. And he's like, I took that 15-minute call you gave me, bless me with your time. I took that. He was like, I was at my lowest point. I was ready to sell my business, was done with it. Now he's making more money than he's ever made in his life. He's got that time and money freedom he wanted. And he just took what I taught him in 15 minutes. And so, of course he wanted more, right? So that's what those type of experiences happen to me every day. And then I have the 5,000 people I can track, the ones who actually pay me to help them. So that's where, I guess that may be a long story, man, but that's kind of where I got started and how I got to where I'm at today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Talk about where was like that your high school, and where did you go to high school, and some life lessons that you look back now and go, man, that was valuable. That was a valuable life lesson that I learned in high school, being a military kid, right? So there's some discipline. You got great vibes to you. So around grandma and grandpa in Montana, shout out Montana. I was in Billings, Montana for for one semester while I was at Rocky Mountain College. And then, so just talk about that. What are some life lessons that you learned in high school before going to college? And then we'll start to just follow that sequence to where you are now.
Sure. I went to 4 different high schools. Being military, we
Hmm.
moved around. Those high school experiences were really interesting. So, um, 3 of them were in the Midwest, and then one of them was in the South. So I went to high school in Oklahoma and Kansas, and then Georgia. And so the first 2 high schools in Oklahoma, they were so small that to field a team of any kind, every single boy in the high school had to play. Like if we want to field a men's football team or a boys football team or a boys baseball team, everyone had to play. If one person didn't play, and we couldn't play, right? That's just the way of it. So um, it was kind of an interesting experience going from that school to a much larger one in Kansas. And that school in Kansas was unbelievably amazing. They gave the students autonomy. They allowed you to kind of pick what you wanted to learn. When it came to English, you had everything from literature to expository writing. So you learned how to write, you know, um, articles and essays, or you could learn how to write stories. So whatever type of writing you wanted, just let's take English as an example. You could choose any type of English you wanted to get your English credits. Then I moved from there to Georgia, and the teachers there had a very strong respect relationship with the students, right? So as you can imagine, the test scores in that school were off the charts. And then I moved to Georgia into a school where it looked like a prison. When I pulled up, they literally had a chain link fence that was like 16-foot chain link fence with razor wire around the outside. And the first day of school, I went down a hallway to get a drink of water, and a teacher started screaming at me at the top of their lungs, like screaming at me. And I was a senior in high school, and I'd never experienced that before. Never experienced anybody screaming at me before. And there was no respect, teacher to student, anywhere in the school. A good example of this, I was standing beside the screaming thing, standing in front of a cabinet wall of cabinets, and one of my classes, I was a student aide, and I was in the front office. One of the teachers came up and said, saying, "Hey, excuse me, can I get into this cabinet?" They just opened the cabinet and started hitting me with it until I moved out of the way. And as you can imagine, that school, the test scores were some of the lowest in the state,
Mm.
right? And they graduated students that couldn't read, right? They had a 21 years old. You had to graduate from high school, and some of these students who have been in high school for 6 years,
Wow.
and they just aged out of the high school system. And you can imagine that created some interesting drama because at the time, age of consent in the state of Georgia, I think, was 14 years old. So you
Hmm.
had 21-year-old men in high school with 14-year-old girls. And so I really kind of took that whole thing to, I'm an observer of humans, right? And I realized that the stark difference between a school that has no respect for the process, no respect for other humans, has no respect for themselves, and then you have the school that has ultimate respect for people. And it's the same type of students. I think there was, it's military schools, right? So they were on near military bases. You want to talk about diversity, right? I think that it was probably 50 to 60%, 70%, minorities in both schools. But the school in
Wow.
Kansas, the test scores were off the charts. The test scores in Georgia were so low that I went from, I think, ranked out of a class of 500 people in Kansas, I was ranked mid 100s,
Right.
right? And I graduated like ninth in the class in Georgia.
Right.
And it was just for me, the life lesson was empowering people to take control of themselves and giving them the respect that they deserve, and helping them through the process. When they run into roadblocks, your job as an educator is to just help them jump over the roadblock. It's not to badger them or beat them. down. It's not to belittle them, it's not to treat them poorly. The more respect you give them, the more autonomy you give them, the more choices that you give them, and the more that you're just there as a helper, the more people will succeed on their own.
No, I love that.
And I
I
think
love
my
that.
my internet's acting goofy. I'm gonna connect up my cell phone to it. Did you
Okay.
catch all that,
I
Coach
got
V?
all of that. No, that was good. There was a bit of a delay the last 10 seconds or so, but it'll filter through. And thanks for trying to fix it on the run. It looks like you're coming in nice and clear. I love that, right? Because it's the same, and this isn't because Joe Mikitish or Coach V says so. This is what the studies say. Whether it's an Ivy League business school, Harvard, or Cambridge across the pond, that people perform on higher levels that feel appreciated and respected, right, Joe? Come on, man.
100%.
I mean, that's not just the same in education, but you see that within football dynasties, championship programs, is because there's a respect factor and a mission statement, a vision statement, and all the things that really connect the human factors, right? So I love how you said that. So where did you go to college after that? So thank you for sharing that. And the main point being the same type of people were there. The demographics were the same in terms of minorities versus Caucasian, right? In both Kansas and Georgia, but just the culture, which is another thing about financial freedom or time freedom, right? It's like having the culture and the understanding and the awareness to know better, to know different, and then having the ability to connect the noun to the verb of action, execution, performance, creating process, right? I mean, that's just huge. Final thoughts on that before we move on, Brother Joe.
It's exactly what you said. Whether it's us saying it or a big university study, there's a universal truth, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You read
Right.
all these books behind me. It's universal truths that you're going to get from all of them. It's interesting because I'll quote somebody and somebody will say, "Oh, was that Jim Collins?" And I'm like, "No, it was somebody else." And they're like, and it's the universal truth of
Yeah,
if you entrust people and you give them the right tools, that they will usually rise up and succeed.
that's right.
Because we all at a base level we want to become more. It's only whether you are being pushed down, case of the school in Georgia, or lifted up, like the
Yes,
case of
sir.
the school in Kansas, that gives you that's going to determine where your own like belief system that you can be better and can succeed.
Man, that's a great story. That's a great life lesson from high school, and then being able to look back and have the hindsight, right? And the maturity to put some foresight into, hey, this is a life lesson right here, man. The cultures were different, so thank you for that. Let's talk about college and take about a minute, and then we'll move on. Talk about some of the life lessons that you learned from college. And before you do that, I do want to say one thing. I love how military kids are not scared to start over because you guys have had to start over every time you move, create new relationships versus staying in one place all the time because we moved around a lot, more so just because we were poor. And since we were poor, we figured out we could be poor anywhere. So we might as well go to the best spot that gave us an opportunity to be the best poor we could be. Because people tell me that all the time. It's like, I can't move, I'm poor, man. You could be poor anywhere. You might as well be poor somewhere where you can connect the dots and rise above all that. Talk about some of the life lessons from college, please, Joe.
I think that really a couple things college taught me. I went to Montana Tech in Butte, Montana,
Yeah, I've been
and
there.
and yeah, ore diggers, and it was a great experience for me. It was um, to a certain extent the I realized that the education what I was getting out of the school was not necessarily going to apply in real life.
Mm.
Um, I knew that I had to.
Say that one more time for the audience. The education you were getting in school. I just need all of us to hear that, including myself. One more time. The education you were getting in school.
Yeah, it wasn't going to apply in real life. Um, I think that primarily what I learned was time management. What I took out of it was time management. So I opted to take a time management course as a freshman, which I still teach time management courses today. I help people with time management.
Right.
It's completely different than what I learned, but it set me on the path, right? Of I can get a lot more done if I'm more regimented with my time. And am I perfect at it? I don't think any of us are. But the reality is, if I block my time out properly, I can get so much more done than anyone else. And people ask me all the time, they're like, "How are you taking so many credits, still being able to go play sports of different kinds?" And I was DJing at the radio station, doing all kinds of stuff, right? I was doing all kinds of things. And they're like, "How do you get all this done?" And I was working, and I said, "Well, what'd you do today?" And they're like, "Well, I got up at this time and I did this and did this." I'm like, by the time you got to lunchtime,
I
you've done
already.
maybe 3 things. I've
Yeah,
done
yeah.
20 things in that time. And so, when you think about that over time, let's just say I do 1% more than someone else. Say I have a business and I'm a competitor, and I have a competitor that I do 1% more of every single day. What does that equal over the course of a whole year? It's the separation between that competitor's down here. I'm not just 1% better. I'm 1% better every single day. And
Yeah.
so my business is growing like this. And I did learn that lesson in college. If I can be 1% better every day, I can do 1% more. I can read 1% more books, like pages in a book. What do I accomplish by the end of the year? And that was, I kind of tuned out most of my instructors in college, just like I did in high school. I have this weird ability to read books, and then I just tune out the instructor and take the tests, right? I just show up to show up. But that instructor with the time management, she got up there and she said that to me, and I was like, that is the most interesting thing somebody said to me in like a year. And so I'm like, I got to unpack this. And so I wrote on my whiteboard. I lit one of those little whiteboards in my room. Be 1% better every day. And still, my coaching clients today, here we are. How many years later? 26 years later, I'm still teaching the same thing. Be 1% better every day. You don't have to be 20% better. Be
That's
1%
amazing.
every day. So that was the big lesson from college. Out of all the stuff they taught me, big lesson: be 1% better every day.
I love that. I love that. So now let's talk about Do Work Nation and what you guys got going on right now. Take about a minute or two max, and then we'll keep rolling. Do Work
Yeah,
Nation.
yeah. Do Work Nation. Really, our focus is providing tools for business owners. We primarily start with education, right? So we're working to empower them to acquire their own customers. When you talk to most business owners, their biggest problem is they need more clients, they need more money, right? And so we give them the tools needed in order to do that at a very base level. So here's how you get more referrals, for example. And it's not just hope get more customers and do a good job and hope you get some, right? We have a process driven, do these steps every day and you will get enough business. Most of our clients, I talked that the guy in 15 minutes over in England, very base level. In 15 minutes, this is how you go get more referrals. And that's all he's done. And he was like, "Man, that changed my whole life." I'm like, "Dude, that's like 1% of what I teach people. And it changed your whole life." Right. So that's the foundation of what we do is customer acquisition through relationship sales. So we use technology tools to enhance that. I teach people how to use those tools, right? People a lot of times think Facebook is a social media platform where you push content. I teach people to use Facebook, for example, on how to build relationships properly. And so what we're doing is taking people through the path. You're brand new, maybe you got a side hustle. You're working for a big company, got a side hustle, want to turn it into your main hustle. We can help you do that very quickly. Usually within a couple months, our clients are quitting their jobs and
That's
going
awesome.
doing their business full time. Then from there, maybe you're doing 5,000 a month and want to do 30,000 a month. How fast do you want to get there? How fast can you get there, right? Can you hire enough people to handle the work? How do you go from 30,000 to 300,000 a month? Because I like that. I like doing that. I like teaching people how to do that. And can you handle doing it in 6 months? If you can handle doing it in 6 months, then my coaching might be the right one for you. But so we're kind of taking people down that path, and then we have networking opportunities that we're doing. We're actually going to San Antonio in February to do a mixer down there and a full day mastermind for our clients from around the country. Our coaching clients, we're bringing them all into one spot. But really our goal is to give business owners that time and money freedom. And I can tell you this, most business owners don't have it. They're slave to their business. They hate it. They may like their business, but they hate that they can never take a day off. They can't put their phone down. They can't go on vacation. They can't provide for their family at the level that they wanted to. Oftentimes they made more money at a job than they do with their company. They don't have the ability to say no if they get a bad customer. They keep that bad customer because they need the money, right? So there's a lot of these things that we wanted when we started in business. We can't get it. We don't know how, and nobody's there. Who teaches it? All these books behind you, behind me. I buy every book on marketing, sales, relationships, referrals, networking, business growth, scaling. There's not one book that has this information that I have ever found. But if you take all of this plus the coaching and mentoring I've received over the years, I've created a very nice system that works. And
That's
so
awesome.
all I do with Do Work Nation is bring that to people. And then when they get that time and money freedom, I want to see the pictures.
That's right. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And then so taking, okay, being a military kid, being in Denver, Montana, Houston, you went to Montana Tech. You've been all over the place, right? You've been in Oklahoma, Kansas, Georgia. Now you're in Boise, Idaho. What would be your message to the world if you had one message like this is an approach here? What would that be?
Yeah, I think the only thing limiting you from doing what you want in life is you, right? Think about me living in all those places. One year I was working in Georgia, and my dad was stationed down there. So after college, he was still down there. So I moved back down there, and I didn't want to live in Georgia anymore. So I moved to Tennessee, and then I was like, I want to go see more SEC football games. Can I work it so that I can position myself to be based out of the University of Alabama? I did that, right? So I was based down there. I could go to all the games. I could do all the stuff that I wanted to do. And then a buddy of mine said, I have an opportunity in Boston. Do you want to come up here? And I said, sure. Nothing stopped me from going there, right? Even though I had a very young family and we were kind of growing some stuff, I just moved there. And then I had the opportunity in Houston, and I moved to Houston. And then I moved to Boise, and I've stayed here out of choice, right? If I wanted to move somewhere else, I could. A lot of people limit themselves on not only their career, their relationships, but their location. You don't need to be tied to anything.
That's right.
I would say honor your commitments. If you have a wife or a husband and a family, honor that commitment, but they can move with you. You don't need to stay where you're at. Sometimes the thing in business and life is a change of scenery is appropriate, right? So, and that could be changing jobs. I was talking to this guy Sterling who works with me. He's run 5 businesses. I've run 10. And it's funny because we talk about, hey, if we ever get tired of doing this one thing, we'll just do another thing. And we know that within 30 days, we can be making enough revenue to pay all.
Right.
So, when people are like, I'm too afraid to quit my job and go start a business, I just blink at them. I'm like, what are you talking about? I could show you how within 30 days you can replace that income.
Yeah, right.
Why, so the only thing limiting you is you, not me, not your job, not your health benefits, not your lost vacation time. It's all in here. So that's my one
amazing
thing.
I love that. The only person limiting your life is you. And I love that, right? Because we're both in the same industry and field in our passions. And I love that because it's like people that come to me are like, I'm gonna quit my job, I'm gonna start doing this. I was like, well, wait, hold on. You don't have the habits that can translate any success to become another success. But once this is what the successful do. Once you are successful in something, they take that same framework and just apply it to a different industry. Then they learn the industry specifics that are industry best practices, and they find something to model that's like that. And then they just replicate the process, but they remain the same person, Joe. Come on, Joe. Joe
100%.
Mikitish is still Joe Mikitish. So if he ran for governor, he would be able to win being governor of the state of Idaho or Texas because of the fact, and that's why you're on the show, because it's like I love it, and because we believe in the same things. And I love how I invite people like you on the show because I grow because you believe what I believe. We're in alignment, congruence, and all that. That's why I rock with you. That's why I follow you and all that stuff, right? But you say it slightly different than a guy with my experiences, my age group, having the experiences I have and you have. So that brought so much value to me how you say that because I say it differently, but I love that. The only person limiting your life is you. Talk about how people can find you, your website, and then how to connect with you on social media and all that, please, Joe.
Yeah, so the best way is to look me up on LinkedIn, primarily because Facebook limits how many connections I can have to 5,000. And so, but LinkedIn allows a lot more. They could obviously people can follow me on any platform, but
Yeah.
connecting with me and having a conversation, the best place to do that is LinkedIn. Instagram as well. You know, I generally accept Instagram requests as long as it appears that the person's business related, right? So
Yeah.
just like a lot of people, I get a lot of those. But LinkedIn is fantastic. And then my website is doworkuniversity.com. You know, if you start typing Joe M into LinkedIn, dollars to donuts, I'm going to come up as the option. So, and you can't miss me. I wear a cowboy hat and I got a giant mustache, and my profile picture looks just like me. So,
I love it. I love it. Man, so last Valentine's, wifey got me because we're big Yellowstone fans, so we watch it, right? And then so wifey got me a cowboy hat. I got another one. I threw it on during one of our sessions that we were on the last one, the last Zoom we were all on. I think it was with the Meridian Chamber. Shout out to the Meridian Chamber. She bought me another one when we're in Cancun this summer. No, it was Cozumel. We're in Cozumel, right? And then so, but I love that. I'm gonna say dollars for donuts now. Every time I wear my cowboy hat, it's gonna be my Joe Mikitish term. I'm like dollars for donuts. When you type in Viliami Tuiva, I'm gonna be the first person that pops up. I love that term, dollars for donuts. Let's go shout outs. Who are your shout outs here on the Coach V show from Hollywood Dash Radio, right? On the Dash Radio app worldwide. It's on Spotify, on the Coach V podcast, and then on the Coach V show that's on YouTube and also on Facebook Live. Who you shouting out, Brother Joe?
who am I shouting out? You know, I guess I'm shouting out my wife, Bethany. You know, she is 100% the reason I'm able to do what I do. You know, she's like, I am ready for your next thing. I'm ready for the next level, whatever that is, whatever you want to do. I'm 100% behind you. And, you know, oftentimes, you know, like kind of like your relationship with your family is they're the ones when you're having a down day, they're the ones that are like, you got this.
Yeah,
And,
right.
and then when you're having an up day, they're there to celebrate the wins with you, you know, that without her, I wouldn't have the ability to run at the pace that I run. Right. You know, I've been on the other side of a bad relationship, kind of like Warren Buffett said. One of the key indicators of whether somebody's gonna be successful or not is who they marry, right? So, and I can't stress that to people enough. Be real careful with that decision.
Yes, sir.
You know?
Yeah, Warren Buffett, part Tongan for people that don't know. You know, he's Polynesian just like me, because I say that all the time. The number one decision a person makes in their adult life success is who they choose as a spouse, and not be do not be casual in your relationships
Right.
because
Do not be casual. And
it'll last for a long time. Baby daddy and baby mama, it's gonna be around forever. It's going for a long. Come on, Joe. Why are you laughing, Joe? Talk to me.
yeah, 100%. That is, I mean, I talk to people about this every single day on
Yes,
the
sir.
back end of those bad relationships.
Yes, sir.
Every single day, where it puts them back, reset 10, 15 years in your life on a divorce. Why in the world would you do that to yourself? Don't do that. Don't do that to your kids.
Yes,
So
sir.
there's my take on that. Shout out my wife Bethany. She's my rock. She takes care of me better than anyone, right? So I love her and I appreciate everything she does for me. And then secondly, the guy Sterling Crawford that works for me, man, that relationship is more of a partnership than almost any relationship I've had with anyone outside of Bethany, right? So we've been able to build something in a very short period of time. It's creating an alliance between two people who have run multiple businesses and trained thousands of people to be able to build something that's absolutely going to be able to change the lives of millions of people. So that's what we're doing now, and that's I appreciate having him as my running mate, my partner, the guy who's going to rock this with me for the next however many years he wants to work with me. So those relationships, and then relationships like Will Green, right? Who
Brother Will Green. Shout out Will Green. Yep.
Will Green. Somebody like that, he and I do every Tuesday, we do a 30-minute Facebook Live and we drop, some knowledge for some the business owners that we service together and separately. And people like that who are willing to just give to others with no expectation of return.
Yeah, that dude's a giver. Yes, he
Yeah,
is.
he is a huge giver. And I want to shout out all the givers who are in the business community, especially those at this community I'm in, business community, who are willing to drop what they're doing, take care of their other business owners in the community, lift them up, knowing that that's going to help all of us do better.
Yep, that's awesome. So welcome to the Coach V Show for all of you that have just tuned in. We are with one of the duos of Do Work Nation. And Brother Joe Mikitish is here on the Coach V Show, broadcast from Hollywood-Radio Studios. And we are back in studio since COVID starting January 19th. I think I'm still going to do Zoom interviews for everybody who tunes in on every Motivation Monday, and for guys like Joe who come on the show. But I am really excited to get back in studio on Hollywood Boulevard. I mean, the studio, you can see the Walk of Fame right from where our studio is. It's a brand new studio that was just finished in March. And so last March, but everything got closed down. So I'm really excited to get that going and maybe have you and Sterling there. When you guys are in Hollywood or Disneyland doing anything like that, I'll fly down to Hollywood from Sacramento and we'll connect. So I'm flying in. So here are two questions. The first one on the Coach V hot seat is this. And the hot seat for all of you that are brand new, we got Joe Mikitish on the line here, is I'm just going to say a word, a phrase, Coach V saying ism, and then Joe's just going to tell us what's on top of mind. But my first one is I'm rolling in September 28th, 2023 for the 8 States Chiefs Conference to be the keynote speaker of the Chiefs and the leadership training for 8 States Chiefs in Idaho. When I get off the airplane and I roll out of Boise Airport, what is the first restaurant this Polynesian brother needs to go eat? Joe Mikitish.
Are you coming in for breakfast or what's the meal?
No. Yep. My favorite meal is breakfast, but so usually there's a 6 a.m. flight that gets me there like 8:30 because it's an hour and a half, 2-hour flight. But you guys are 1 hour ahead. I get in at 8:30 in the morning. Where am I going?
So I would go to Terry's Cafe in Meridian.
Terry's Cafe. What's that? What street is that on?
It's on Fairview.
On Fairview?
Between Eagle and Locust Grove.
Yeah, I know those streets, baby. Eagle and Locust Grove. Okay. And then lastly, here on the Coach V hot seat, and thank you so much for coming on the show, Joe, is this Coach V quote: "There's money in the transaction, but the wealth is in the relationship." So when I say that here on the Coach V hot seat, Brother Joe Mikitish, what comes top of mind?
top of mind is building those relationships, right? So one of the things that I learned early on was the relationship is the most important thing. And one of my first mentors, this was in 1999, he told me that if I could build relationships with 5 new people every single day, I'll never need anything else. Money will just come to me as fast as I could ever want it to, no matter what business I do. And so I'll give you an example of this. I sold a business in 2020. I walked into another meeting with a group of people and I said, "Hey, by the way, that business is sold. I'm not doing that anymore." Well, what are you doing 100% focused on now? And I said, "I'm going to 100% focus on the business that I've been split focused on, which is this one." And all of them started referring me business day one, right? So um, throughout my life, everything I need is in my phone. And I know when I call somebody and I say, "This is Joe Mikitish," they perk up and they go, "How can I help? What can I do for you? Who can I introduce you to? How can I help your business?" Or they go, they jump right on when one of my clients need help. I was in a cafe, Terry's Cafe, and they had a credit card processing issue, and they're freaking out. They got people in there, they can't get paid. We helped them out with the Venmo side, but I called their credit card processing people and I said, "Send somebody over here." And I'm sitting there drinking coffee, and they came rolling in like superheroes with their capes on and fixed everything, right? And that's what we all want in life, is people to jump on whatever issue we might have, whatever problem. It's health, it's business, it's personal. You got a flood in your house, whatever it might be. The right people to help out. People call me all the time. "I got 6 inches of water in my house. What do I do?" I'm like, "Let me make 2 calls for you." And they call me the next day and they go, "My house, the water's out of it. The plumber showed up. The people showed up with the vacuum cleaners and sucked all the water out and got fans going. They put me up in a hotel. Thank you so much." And I'm like, "No problem. I got you." And it could be here, it could be Houston, it could be, a guy called me in Kansas City the other day, and he's like, "Hey, my foundation, my house shifted, and I got a major problem." I'm like, "Let me make 2 calls." Called a real estate agent I know in that same town. She's like, "This is the guy you need." I called him and said, "Hey, this real estate agent told me to call you. This is what's going on." He's like, "What's the address?" I sent him over there. He was there in 15 minutes fixing the problem, right? So everything you need in life, if you build the right relationships and you do it the right way with a giver's attitude, people will move the earth for you. And those are the type of relationships I'm interested in. And that's when people call me, I want to be that relationship for them.
That's awesome. Value. I love that value. So thanks, Joe. Final on being on the Coach V show, and we're going to close out. Thank you for that.
Final for me.
Yes, final for you, brother Joe. You get the final
I
word, and
appreciate
then I
you,
close
Coach.
us out.
Yeah. Final is, I appreciate the relationship that we have in our
Yes, sir.
building. And just like we talked about with other relationships, it is the most important thing. People talk about sales, they talk about transactions, they talk about revenue. I want to hear what relationships you're building every single day and how you're improving other people's lives. And then money is not a concern for you anymore.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that, Joe. And thank you for everybody for tuning in to this episode of the Coach V Show. As this airs on Monday, it will be December 26th. And I hope that your Christmas was phenomenal, that you really had time with family and a time to unwind, right? And if you follow me or you follow Joe, you know that we're always doing business, but we're always planning or on our next vacation or having a good time. And so I hope Christmas will well as we go into this week before we come back on the next Mono Motivation Monday, which will be the day after New Year's, which will be the 2nd. I just wish everybody just a great evening and hope that your Christmas was awesome. And for Joe and I, it's just not for the sake of success that you tune into a show like this, but really for the sake that you be your best. In doing so, you realize the best of your abilities and that everything and anything that you dream, work, and pray for, as sure as dollars get donuts or donuts get dollars, the way Joe says it is the right way. You can achieve whatever it is that you want in life, leadership, and business. And not because we say so, I mean, this is how life, leadership, and business works. So until then, from your boy Joe Mikitish in the 208, shout out 208 in the Gem State and everybody there in the Treasure Valley. From right here in Northern California via Dash Radio broadcast on Hollywood Boulevard, Hollywood Studios. From your boy Joe, your boy Coach B. One love, mad respects, live it. Choo!